And there we are. Hey, good evening, everybody, and happy Martin Luther King Day. Happy National DJ Day. Happy Inauguration Day, and whatever else you are celebrating tonight. It is a joyous night, and we're awaiting the Ohio State game. So lots of good stuff that's going on all through the day today. If you've landed here, we want to welcome you. We ask you, please go ahead and use the chat and sign in. My name is Linda Lejeski. I am the National Employer Relations Representative for the Be On Air Network of Media Schools. And that Be On Air Network of Media Schools includes Ohio Media School, Illinois Media School, Colorado Media School, and Miami Media School. This is our first episode back since the new year. We are now in our fourth year. It's just unbelievable of presenting these bi-monthly webinars, and we're so glad that you'll join us. Our goal is to bring you industry pros, many of which have graduated from our media school and are experts in their field, and we bring them together with you to educate you, connect you, and assist you as you're growing your career or just looking to make a pivot within your career. Tonight, we are really, really excited to start in Chicagoland. We've got a lot of Chicago in the house tonight. Our guests are two outstanding media pros who together have probably about 30 years of experience. Angela Williams, you can see her up on the screen, and Denise Nolan, who's trying to get on. We're going to get her here as soon as we can. We're having a few technical difficulties. Oh, and then we can add Tony also. Tony Lopez is also a Chicago guy who's a graduate of our schools as well. So when we look to Angela, Angela is a Radio Inc. Award winner. She's been very involved in urban radio. She has 20 years in the industry working PR, marketing, management, Crawford Media. She has a lot of expertise in many areas that are going to interest you, not only from an on-air perspective, but from a business perspective as well. She's joined by Denise Nolan, who also works at Crawford. Denise is a producer. You'll find her on shows like The Ricky Smiley Show. She, too, is an on-air host and has over 10 years of experience and is well known throughout Chicago. And so I know that the two of them collectively with our moderator, Tony Lopez, are going to be bringing you some great information tonight. Tony, as I said, is a graduate of Illinois Media School, Illinois Center for Broadcasting when he was in school. He is also our education coordinator. He is a podcast host. Say that 3 times fast. With his enthusiastic disposition, he really does a great job moderating our Be On Air forum, and we're just so happy to have our 3 together and to begin tonight. So just as a quick reminder, again, you can put comments in the chat. We're going to use the feed under the screen to give you some updates and information. And Tony will get you probably within the last 10 to 15 minutes of the webinar. So sit back, enjoy yourself, and welcome all to the Be On Air Forum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for an amazing introduction. As we always brag about your introductions on these forums, we appreciate it so much. And also, thank you to Linda, who organizes these for our students, our alumni, and just anybody who wants to, learn really and gather information for potential future endeavors. So, Linda, you are commended.
Thank you. I'm going to hop off, but I'm going to monitor the site. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. We have Angela Williams here with us. And again, she's a manager, a business operations manager at Crawford Media Group. And Linda, or Angela, I'm sorry, we've spoken a couple of times, so I'm happy to have you. We'll be waiting for Denise here. Hopefully we can get her in as soon as possible. But Angela, you're here, so let's start.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, one more note of housekeeping. As Linda said, I want to make sure it's clear. The last 15 minutes of the forum, we'll have a Q&A session where students or anybody who's on the forum can ask you guys questions and any concerns that they have for that session. So we would love to interact with you. So please stay tuned. Write those questions in the chat. We will get to them expeditiously as soon as we're done with our conversation. I believe somebody's trying to get in. Is somebody trying to get in?
Maybe that's Denise. I'm hoping.
Okay. We'll see. We'll continue, and hopefully she pops up there. But Angela, welcome into the Be On Air Forum. We're happy to have you. And so we'll start. Obviously, this is an industry, and you know this very well, that is unorthodox, right? It's
very much so.
It's not your common it's not your common everyday life when it comes
No.
to the workforce and the work job
Mhm.
in itself. But let's talk about first, your journey in the industry, right? We'll start off with how you began in PR and transition into radio operations. That must have been an interesting transition, but talk about that for us.
Whew, okay, so let's start from the
loaded question. First loaded question.
So I actually, in undergrad, I was a communications major with the hopes of going into TV, sports journalism. That was my goal. While I was in college, I had the opportunity to work for the campus radio. That was really my accident. I don't know. Are you getting that?
Yeah, I am. Let me see why though.
Okay.
I'm actually good on my end now. You still getting feedback?
Okay. All right. I think I can talk now. Okay. I was hearing myself repeat.
Yeah.
So had an opportunity to join the campus radio station all by accident because I went to a school that did not have a large urban population. So they had some specialty urban programming on the weekend. And I just happened to love music so much. And I started DJing parties that I was like, you know what, let me give this a try. No radio class, no nothing. And had the opportunity to learn how to run a board and interact with radio promotions, college radio promotions. Hi, Denise. There's Denise.
Hey.
I'm so sorry. Oh, my goodness.
It's okay.
So I was telling my life story.
Okay.
So I had the opportunity to do campus radio. It was really cool. And it was kind of my first experience with radio. But again, did not see this as a career. It wasn't even in the horizon for me. Then I decided I was going to go towards advertising. Ended up working for a PR ad agency in Chicago that serviced pretty much minority customers, clients, etc. And at that time, one of the clients happened to be Crawford Broadcasting. At that time, that's what we were called. And Crawford was launching a radio station, another format. So at that time, this was 2004, and the stations had switched to secular formats. Two of the stations had switched to secular formats. They were originally gospel formats. So they were launching an R&B station, and they wanted brand publicity and obviously to get the word out to the community. And I was put on that team to work, brand promotion. And I got a chance to get to know the management and inner workings of launching a radio station. I was a young account executive at the time, very new. And I just found the experience just super interesting. And so I was highly engaged in the work. And so I was an assistant account executive because I was young. I was working under someone, but I was the one getting all the project work. And so that gave the station personnel an opportunity to get to know me. And so during the station's kind of growth, they wanted to be more community oriented. And so they brought me on to manage community relations for the radio station to help to expand its brand in Chicago. So I started to do that work, which made me directly work with the general manager and some of the top programming personnel at the radio station. Got a chance to know all the personalities. I was in the inner workings at that point. And at that point, they were like, you know what, you should come and work in-house. So that's what I started out doing. And I did that for about 2 years. And at the same time, was going to business school, getting my MBA. And I was like, you know what, I want to work on the business side. I enjoy kind of the inner workings of things. And so the general manager at that time was looking for someone to support him in operations because the person that was there was leaving. And so he asked me, was it an opportunity I was interested in? And so I kind of came in as an understudy, and I worked under the general manager, and it pretty much blossomed from there. And so started out working in promotions and then ended up on the business side in operations management. I was like an executive sales coordinator in training. And then it just took off from there. So that's pretty much my story.
You found your niche at that point. You found your niche.
Yes.
That's awesome. Denise, with Denise Nolan's here with us as well. She is joining us on the forum now. Denise, we're just introducing ourselves here. And as I asked Angela, I'll ask you, Denise, discuss your transition from poetry, right?
Yeah,
From poetry
right.
into radio.
Yeah. Okay. So started poetry back in like 2004. And while I was doing that, it gave me the opportunity to basically speak in front of large crowds. Um, I had to somehow find a way to be different from all the other poets because everybody, we speak differently, we talk about different things. But if you're not used to listening to poetry, you have to grab someone's attention in the first 30 seconds because if you don't, you can forget it. It's over with. You're not going to keep them throughout your piece that you're doing. So, I was doing poetry. I started doing it in different suburban places, as far as like libraries and just different events, and started doing it in church as well. So as I was doing that, my father-in-law actually had a few radio shows at Crawford Broadcasting at the time, and we had three different shows. It was Next Generation of Christians. I think it was called Crosstalk, and then we did a show called Kick 'em or Keep 'em. So that led me into producing the shows. I wasn't actually on the show. So I was getting the talent ready. I would put together the pastors that were on a show called Crosstalk. And it was just a collective group of different pastors that came together all the time. And they had conversation about, the Bible and just things about the Christian world. So after doing poetry, then sliding over to somewhat producing shows, I was like, man, it would probably be really cool to work here. So there was a young lady who was our board operator. Her name was Shay. And when we did go into the station, I would ask her. And at the time, they weren't hiring or anything. But once they did, I just kept sending in my resume. Dwayne Glover, he was the chief board operator at the time. I probably sent my resume probably for about 6 months. It got to the point where the post office, they knew who I was. But I was persistent. I wanted to get in. I wanted to work there because I love doing, just working with people that was in radio and things like that. So that's kind of how I got into it. I got that phone call from Glover. And he said, "Can you come tomorrow?" I said, "Yes, sir." I was there. I interviewed, and the rest is history to where I am now.
Our journeys are always interesting. I got a relatable story with you on that one, Denise. When it
Yeah.
comes to sending your resume over
Yes.
and over,
Over and over again.
Yes.
oh, yeah. I think we all have a couple of those stories, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
It's awesome, and both of you in the radio industry, and so we're gonna dive a little deeper in a bit about the industry itself. But one thing I like to do in the beginning of these forums, or honestly, any time in these forums, is the importance of two things. Number one, networking and branding. And I'm gonna go to Angela here with this real quick. The role of relationships and networking to break into the industry is huge. Like I have countless stories of me personally of how I was able to have one small conversation that led me to 3 gigs, right?
Mm.
So that happens a lot. But Angela, talk about why networking is so important. It's important in any industry, but really specifically in our industry, it's huge.
It is massive. I know when I definitely bring people on board, I always ask them what their goals are. Because I want to be a face that they feel that they can connect to and ask questions. Once people get to know who you are or they're used to seeing your face, then they can connect you to things and connect you to your work ethic and when someone brings your name up. So it's essential to get your name out there so that, because I know for me, once I hear a name dropped by several managers or several people, then it's a light bulb is going to go off and I'm going to say, well, what about so-and-so, or what is this person doing? Or, so it's crucial. Obviously it was a catalyst for me getting my start. Nobody knew who I was. I wasn't even a radio person. I became my name was dropped because I was doing so much to help, different people within the business. And so I began to be that person to call. I remember before I actually had come over to the radio station, they were putting on a big concert and they were trying to get some ticket sales at the last minute. So this was different from the scope of work I had been doing and just trying to build a brand for the station, they were like, we got this show with LL Cool J. We need these tickets to sell. So we need to get this out to the media. Who do we call? Call Angela. I became that person. And so once you kind of put yourself out there and people get a chance to understand and know what your skill set is, then you have a better chance of being sort of pulled up out of that pile.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about multiple relationships when it comes to just looking at things. And I tell students all the time in class, ask a question, ask people what they're working on, find out what's, it's not you being nosy, not in this industry at least. It's just common conversation when it comes to it. So, Angela, absolutely right, man. The networking portion of this thing is huge when it comes to it. And Denise, I'll go to you for this next question. I mentioned branding. Right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I got some notes here. Pizzazz, is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Pizzazz is that the jock name, the host name? Is that what you go by?
Denise, no, it's Niecy. Niecy, your best friend on the weekend. That's what I go by.
Niecy, the best name. I'm reading it wrong. Niecy, okay, got you.
Yeah.
That's your nickname, right?
Yeah.
And so branding is huge, right? When it comes to now, especially now. Back then, I don't know how much it would have been, much having an impact, but with social media now, any media avenue from radio, TV, social media, it is huge. So talk about the importance of branding and how it helped you in your career.
Yes. So the importance of branding, one thing that I had to do in the beginning was really find out, one, who is my audience? Who was I talking to? What is it about me? Because when you're branding, you don't want to really have to go outside of who you are. You want to stay in the lane of who you are as far as, that radio personality. So for me, there's a couple of things that I do talk about. I call myself Niecy, your best friend on the weekend, because I want you to feel like when I'm talking to you, I'm your best friend. Okay, we're going to talk about things. I know my audience is, 50s, 60s, some even the 70s. So I know who I'm talking to. So I know what type of topics I need to talk about, what type of things that I need to speak about as far as on the radio. But as far as the branding, I had to make sure, I said, okay, I need to know what social platform to be on first. Mm-hmm. My social platform is Facebook. Not necessarily TikTok, even though everybody, we love TikTok. I now have to figure out fan base and limit 8 if I want to grab a different audience of people. But as far as the branding goes, you want to make sure that you have your target audience. You want to make sure that you're speaking to that audience, because let me just give an example. Say, for instance, I love to skate. Okay. So a lot of the music that actually I play on my show, people can skate to, they can step to. So that's the two different communities that I know that I can speak to on the radio. And not only that, I end up connecting with people, which is some of that networking, and they start sharing my stuff. And the one thing that I found about the older community, the seasoned community, they're loyal people. Okay. They still listen to radio. So social media, it works a little different for me because I'm not on Power 92, where it's very visual for them. Okay. Short videos, quick topics and things like that. So with me, I might not go live all the time. But as far as the branding goes, the importance of it is major, is huge, because people have to know who you are. Okay. What you stand for, your likes and your dislikes. So social media, yeah, it's huge, it's big, the branding is huge. And if you don't know how to do it, connect with people who do.
Facts. I'm with you 100% on all that.
Yeah.
This industry, as I mentioned, can be intimidating, and there's a lot of things that come with it. You want to be creative, you want to put your ideas on paper and then put them on camera, right? Or whatever that looks like via audio. And so it can be an intimidating thing for somebody who's just breaking into the industry. But when social media, radio, TV, it's all one thing now. Like it's really all combined nowadays. You saw what TikTok went away this weekend. People lost their minds.
Yes.
8 hours later, smiled again, right? And so I think it's a huge marriage. But there's a certain set of skills I
Right.
think that are essential when breaking into the industry. So, Angela,
Mhm.
I'll go to you first. What do you like to see from individuals that are first starting, or even that are tenured, and that have been working in this industry to be successful in media in general?
I will say one of the things that stands out largely for me is someone that has constantly been working on their craft. Someone that you've seen kind of start from one space and have tried different things to kind of figure out how to tap and connect with people. Because you have to be persistent in this business
Right.
because there's a lot of changes that take place over the time and you have to adapt to them.
Mhm.
So it kind of shows me that the person is adaptable. So I guess that would be in drive, but creative drive.
Mhm.
We talked a lot about digital. Digital skills are an essential. Like it used to be back in the day where you just had to have a great voice and then someone may consider you for radio. And it's just not that way anymore because
Yes.
everything is so integrated in terms of what we sell. There's a lot that happens with video. There's a lot that happens. So you have to be able to use those tools and those skills. So we're looking for people that already have a sense of how to work what you would consider to be your up-to-date platforms of engagement, and that you're already somewhat of an influencer or someone who's connected or
Mhm.
has connections or can make connections. Um, and then what Denise was saying, something that's unique about that person in terms of what
Mhm.
allows them to stand out as a personality. Because in this business, it's really about what's sellable, to be
Right.
honest. And
Hmm.
so you have to be someone that we feel that brands and clients would want to align themselves with. And
Mhm.
so, from that, we're looking for something. What makes you different from the other great voice? Denise mentioned like she steps and skates. That's a community that
Yeah.
my station embraces. So that's an asset
Mhm.
for someone to have. So whether you're someone who's heavily into sports, that's an asset that can be used in order to garner more audience. So those would be the three things that I would say would
Mhm.
be most attractive.
Denise, I asked you the same question. What skills would you look for? I'm sorry.
Well, one of the things was I just recently hired some board operators, and one of the things that I look for in that person, one is how well versed they are as far as social media. What are some of their dreams, their goals, and not only that, but what are they working on right now? I have a couple of people who actually have a podcast, who have come on board, and they have done amazing things. Where um, back before when we first started, as far as I go, our board operators, you didn't talk on air in our Rejoice station. But now our clients feel very comfortable with them to allow them to talk with them on air. But the thing is that I look for someone who has ideas, who is moving towards the future with things, because we're not going to move or change anything. And radio, they can always say, a lot of people don't listen, but they will listen. Okay, you have to have the right content. You have to find that niche of who you are. And when I'm looking for a person, I want to make sure that they're paying close attention to detail. Okay, because that's so important, especially in the job of what they would do as far as board operators and also producers. If you're not paying attention to what's going across the air, or you don't have an ear,
Mhm.
then we have some issues. So they have to be able to follow instructions very well. The smallest thing that you miss me saying, or anyone telling you to do something, can cause a mistake on air. And that can cause problems. It can cost money. Okay.
Yeah,
So I
that
want a
too.
person that is dependable. Um, I actually, when I did interview someone recently, one of the things that this person had, she had her own business. And a person who has their own business knows how important it is to show up to work.
Mm.
Okay. So with her, and now she's like the best board operator I have out of the five that, we brought in. Everybody loves her. And She always wants to be there. She wants to learn. So you listen out for those type of things. And when you're interviewing, you're looking to see what this person does, outside of what they're getting ready to do as far as radio goes.
Yeah. No, and it's a lot. It can be a lot in the beginning, but those are skill sets that can be managed and handled. And it's all about it's all about working hard, getting to that
Right.
point, and not being afraid to ask those questions,
Right.
develop them skill sets. So that's good stuff from you and Angela. I love hearing it. I'm going to stick with you, Denise, on this one. This next question. Radio. People think of radio right now. Some people say it's dying. Some people say it's
Mm-hmm.
never going away, right? And it's one of those things that it's still here.
Yes,
People are still paying for ads.
they sure are.
And it's there, and there's still jobs, right?
That's right.
It may not be the 80s and 90s, but there's still opportunities out there. So I wanted you to discuss, like, what are the different roles that are still available that you see out there in the radio industry, from board operating that you're versed into to hosting and other behind the scenes stuff. What roles are still out there?
What I definitely believe that um, roles that are out there are on air hosts, for sure, producers. And the reason being is because I want them to understand that a person who comes in at 4:30 in the morning to run a syndicated morning show is important. Okay. Yeah, some things can run by itself, but you still need that human touch regardless. Now, that's coming from as far as being the board operator or producer. Now, slightly moving over to a personality or on air host, the importance of that is being able to connect with your audience, being able to um, continue to be well versed in the news and what's going on. You have to do research. Okay. A lot of people think and they see it is fun. Okay. Believe me, it really is. But there's work to this thing. So you have to make sure that you cross check all of your information before you go across the air, because you better best believe people are listening. And when they do, they will let you know if that information is not correct. Okay. They'll get on social media so quick, it's ridiculous. But the one thing, when I'm out, sometimes I'll say, hey, I'm on Soul 106.3. And they were like, man, I don't listen to radio no more. Well, why not listen to radio no more? You can win prizes. There's things that happen. There's events that go on. You're really missing out on some good things, and especially on Dee Dee show, you can win up to $1,000. So that's the way I go with it. Do podcasts give you $1,000? No, it doesn't. All right. So that's the reason why I kind of, go that route with it, because yeah, we compete against podcasts. We compete against a person getting in their car, especially the younger generation, to listen to whatever they want to listen to. And that is one of the things that I think we're going to continue to be challenging at times, but we just need to find out exactly what it is we need to do to keep that visual going, to keep the content interesting, and also the music. So, yeah.
For sure. There's not a lack of roles from
Right.
what I'm hearing.
No.
And there's still things out there that you can do in the
Media.
radio industry,
Yes.
which is great to hear,
Mhm.
especially for our students who are out there who are right now enrolled and they're learning the business. Angela, on your end, listen, you got a big job, right? You have to manage relationships. You gotta the word manage is what comes to mind when I look at you, right? And so I guess as you see that as you see the operations and so forth, like, how do you strategically plan to administer the relationships, the accounts, everything that goes around your department? What does that look like for you on a daily basis?
So it's our job as managers to keep the ship moving forward. We are the people, while we have people under us that are executing the goals, we have to guide the direction. That's what I see my role as. Essentially, it is making sure that you have managers in place that can filter down that information to the team, so that we can have operations going forward. From my perspective, I'm the one person in the station that kind of has to touch every point. But it's very useful because I have the sort of macro look at what the entire process requires. in order to keep us moving forward and keep us on task. So that's everything from vendor relations, all of the resources that are required to operate and make that radio station function every day. Sometimes you're just dealing with cutting edge technology changes and things that you have to implement and make sure that staff is aware of and trained on, and those kinds of things. There's also the environmental factors that we have to deal with. For instance, we've got engineering that we have to make sure that the stations are actually functioning and can support, broadcasts every day. Our goals obviously are tied to income, and so that drives the daily decision making. So I oversee those people that oversee content, and so I'm the person that kind of leads that, that goal, quarter by quarter, year by year, income stream by income stream. So that's really looking at how the business or stations are actually acquiring revenue, what's working for clients, what's no longer working for clients, what's working for listeners, what's no longer working for listeners, how we have to adapt. I've been in this business. I call myself blessed because when I entered the business, I entered during the glory days of radio. The ratings measurement system was different. So everything was different. Right. I went through that entire transition, and all radio operations had to adjust and shift. And so I was part of that learning curve of really learning how to adjust to digital ratings management and that whole system, which drives everything. And so then you have to change culture and change the mindset of the people that are working for you. And everybody doesn't always survive those changes, right? Because everybody doesn't like change. But we saw major changes. Stations some went from local focus to now you have national and local. So like what Denise was describing, managing and directing and guiding syndication shows and products is a whole different process. Yeah. I am the affiliate relations manager. So it starts with me in terms of establishing contractual guidelines, which then all of those instructions flow down, and those things have to be executed. So a lot of moving parts that happen on the business side, but I will tell you, it is one of the most exciting parts of my job, probably why I have not done anything else. Because there's never a dull moment. There's never a dull day. I mean, I have a new challenge every day. But I am happy to be part of the team that implemented station apps. I am happy to be a part of a team that made sure that the station was located on a digital dashboard, because that wasn't there. I was happy to be a part of HD2 and HD3 streams and promotion. So all of these things are constantly changing, and good managers know how to bring the people together to be able to shift and execute them.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, especially, I'll tell you one thing. When you love what you do, you're okay.
That's right.
You're good, right? You deal with the challenges, you deal with the hiccups and the road bumps. And so I understand when you say that, this is what I do, though. This is what I'm doing.
Right.
People always ask me, what do you do? And I say, everything.
Yep.
Everything.
Everything.
Mm-hmm. We're talking to Angela Williams and Denise Lonan here from Operations and Crawford Media. And, before we continue the conversation, I want to remind our listeners out there and viewers, we are going to have a Q&A session in about 15 minutes or so, or actually less than that, sorry. See how the conversation goes. But be prepared to, put your questions in the chat. If you haven't done so already, you are going to get back to them at the around 45, 50-minute mark of this hour. So just continue to hang on there and enjoy the conversation. We're going to talk about challenges here real quick, ladies. And, there are always going to be challenges. Doesn't matter what you do, you're going to have challenges. Nothing is a cakewalk.
Right.
And I'll go to you for this first question here. Being a woman in a male-dominated industry must be challenging. I'm not a woman myself, but I can imagine the things you ladies have to face. So tell me about that. Tell me how that worked for you and how you were able to get over some of those road bumps being a woman in the industry.
Yeah, because um, one of the things that I guess I can say as far as working, especially at Crawford, I have been able to see women and men work in this industry. But when it comes to just breaking in the industry and trying to get in the door, you know, sometimes, and I hate to say it this way, but sometimes women are looked at as where we may be the ones that are emotional, and we are looked at as we're the problem sometimes in some things, but and not looking at the talent. And
Mm,
that it's challenging when you are trying to do radio. We have people who are on air hosts who want to have children that have not had children yet, and they're afraid that that's going to slow their careers down. When I got into the industry, I actually was pregnant some 18 years ago. So that was hard for me altogether. But at the same time, trying to get into the industry where you have a lot of men who typically hold what we call, what is it, the afternoon drive. You know, there's not
mhm,
a lot of women who are in that afternoon drive, but your passion, your skill set, the way that you are presented or you present yourself. Hopefully, that boss or that program director that you are approaching has an open mind to say, hey, look, I'm going to give this person a chance and see where we go from here. But as far as some of the challenges, it's just basically trying to get through the door, trying to say, hey, look, I can do this thing because we women, we are looked at a little bit different than men. And I know when I really think about it, the staff for board operators and producer are a lot of men right now. So those are the ones that kind of get, I don't want to say a easy go and able to get on air quicker, or a producer and engineering and things like that. But the thing that I love about Crawford is that everyone has an opportunity as long as you can show us what your skills are, what you can do, you're dedicated, you're committed to this. Um, Basically, show us what you got. Um, Let us know what you can and you cannot do. And if you can't do something, ask questions. That's one of the things that I had to do. And yeah, I asked questions. There was a lot of the guys I asked the questions to, but there was some women who I admire today that's in radio that are doing amazing things. So, I wouldn't want any young woman to get discouraged because she doesn't think that she can measure up to that young man who may be on air as well. Because we as women, we are just as dominant in the industry as the men are right now, and we doing some things. So yeah,
I love to hear it. I
yeah.
can't skip this question. I got to ask Angela the same one. Well, how did you break in, again in a male dominant industry like this? And what challenges did you face?
I think for me, it was less about gender and more about experience. I had a very unique experience. So I was put in executive management, and I was somebody that was not a traditional known radio person. People didn't know me from different, companies within the city. And so they're like, well, who's this girl?
Yeah, yeah, no,
So I think that was probably my biggest challenge. But you lead by um, just taking charge. Like, for me, it was super important to make sure that I showed that I was committed to the craft. And so I got around those that I knew had experience to kind of help train me,
mhm.
in different situations and scenarios. And it really, was greatly beneficial to me. And it wasn't just men, it was women as well. And so, I would say, experience was probably my biggest challenge, or just being a younger manager.
Mhm.
Because you also have to garner the respect of the people that you're
Right.
managing. And so when they look at you and say, oh, you're new or you're younger, or what can you tell me? But then when you kind of tell them, and drop the knowledge on them, and show that you know your stuff, then,
Mhm.
you don't really get so much pushback with that. So I would say that was probably my biggest challenge.
Challenges will never stop. They'll keep coming. So
Right.
we got to evolve and adjust with them, like you ladies have been doing for years now. Angela, I'm going to stick with you here real quick for this next question. Talking about evolving, the industry is evolving. It's been evolving, especially since COVID, right? COVID came and it changed the trajectory of marketing, of production, of content on radio, right? And with that evolving, Denise mentioned this word podcasting has plummeted, right? So how do you deal with that in your position, with the industry evolving in such a way where now it's not that, the standard traditional way of marketing, the standard traditional way of getting, the radio out there, right? From show production to all that stuff, how has it affected you and how do you evolve with the times?
So I think what's important is that you got to understand what people come to your brand for first and foremost, because I am not one to commit to being an early adopter to everything. And being on the business side, there are some companies that can afford a certain level of risk, and then there are some companies that can't. In this business, there were a lot of things that came as a result of COVID and that people attempted to try that did not last or did not have a lasting impression on essentially the buying community. And so for me, it's really about paying attention. You do have to, of course, be on trend. So it's important to have conversations with other managers, and that's even outside of your market, just to see how things are moving, what people are adopting, how people are responding to it. And then in some cases, we may, try a thing at a time. I'll give you an example. Right after COVID, there was a lot of talk and discussion and presentation about AI tools, right? And so they were, there were a lot of companies investing in a lot of technology to essentially replace people. But we know that for stations that local is their strength, that AI replacing people waters down the brand. So I'm not going to accept every technology advancement. You know what I mean? So you have to be sensitive to that. And that's really where it comes down to understanding your brand. Obviously using research tools to be able to do that and just paying attention to what your listeners are. You can't be so far above that you are disconnected from the audience that you're serving and the clients that you're serving. So I always try to stay connected to that. And I listen to my staff. They're on the front lines when it comes to engaging and interacting. And a lot of times they can tell you about something better than what you can research. So
that's my approach. Without a doubt, it's one of those things that I think we're gonna always have to deal with. In about 5-10 years, I'm sure there's gonna be something that shifts in the industry, right? Specifically in radio, because radio is always changing as well. Angela, urban radio and diversity in urban radio is so important. It's always been there from the Steve Harveys, right, to the people who did it back then to that are doing it now. And so I ask you this, how important is urban radio in itself, right? And how it's grown, because it has grown over the years. How do you feel about that?
So urban radio is personal to, I will say, for the African American audience, which is who we, serve predominantly. It's a relationship-based radio. And so clients learned that very early on when we started to connect people that, we personally connected to in the African American community to being the voices of our communication. We want to talk to people that look and feel like us and our families. And so, companies, once they realize that, then that's why you saw the birth of kind of urban radio platforms and stations, evolving. We are still a major consumer group, and we still have even small businesses that require support. And so urban radio plays a huge role in that space because of the relevance. And so it's important for us to still be there as a marketing tool to be able to support that audience. When someone in our industry or someone in our community, passes away. I'll just give an example. Like, we lost Frankie Beverly this year. I mean, the whole community came together, but that was a radio event.
Right.
It's a tool that unites us in a very unique way that other mediums have not or cannot necessarily duplicate. Even TV can't really duplicate it, because nobody can deliver the experience, the passion, and the connection in a unique way, in a unique content way, like a radio announcer. And people know that. And so there's still obviously a bunch of opportunity out there. And I think urban radio is still going to have its place. It's just going to have the additional extensions that clients are looking for as it relates to digital assets and other things to help to support it. But we're still thriving. We still have a place, and it's not going anywhere.
Right.
Without a doubt. Last thing for Denise here. Denise, I get, before we get to our Q&A session here, what's one thing you would tell people out there that want to break into this industry? Like, if you had to have a heart-to-heart with somebody, they're really trying to break into in radio, podcasting, whatever that looks like. What would you tell them in 2025 before they break into this thing, or while they're learning right now? What's one thing you really would tell them that you would probably tell yourself when you first started?
One thing for sure is a commitment. You have to have the commitment and dedication to want to do this. It's work. Journalism, it's research. You're going to need to make sure that you know how to research. You're going to have to make sure that when you are trying to break into this industry, that you have to understand your journey is going to be different from the person sitting next to you. And I know you can hear that, and it may sound cliche, but some make it and some don't. But the thing is that you have to know that not only this is something that you want to do, your reason for doing it, because I do radio because I love it. It's a passion. I'm hungry for it. You're going to have to evolve. You're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to like and work with change. You're going to have to say, okay, there may be a setback. You're going to have to accept it. You're going to have to accept that that person may go a little bit faster on air than I do. But then also understand your lane, understand the timing, understand that in this industry, there's going to be times, there's going to be days that you be like, I want to quit. I don't want to do this thing. I have people on staff that think that they should be doing more than what they're doing right now, but not necessarily ready. But for those of you who really want to be a part of this and want to work in radio, be hungry for it. I want you to have ideas. You have to expand outside past the box. Okay, you're going to have to say, okay, I can accept my strengths and my weaknesses. Because there's going to be times that a program director is going to say, hey, don't cut the mic back on. And then you're going to have to go find out why, because of what you said. You're going to have compassion. You're going to have to understand we have different people in our world that you're talking to. So you have to be careful with the way you display and what you say on radio as far as your opinion. Everybody can have one. We know the one thing that social media has allowed us to do is to become the most sensitive people in the world. Okay? Can't say anything to anybody. So In doing that, you have to be careful what you say, not necessarily, on radio, but you do because they go hand in hand. All right. If we want to bring our social media people over to the radio and our radio people into social media, we have to be careful. We have to know that those two interact with each other. So, getting into this, you got to love it. You got to smile and understand one day you're going to cry. Okay, because something may happen that you're not sure and you don't think it should have. But that's just going to make you stronger. It's going to make you go after what you really want. And all I always say is just keep moving. You got to follow your dreams because nobody else is going to follow them the way that you do.
Mm-hmm.
What you needed, Denise, right, was a little music bed behind you while you said all that.
I told you I was a poet.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're gonna go into our Q&A session now here, where we have people from the audience and our viewers ask questions. I know you guys can see the questions on the screen. I'm just gonna read it real quick. We'll go into it right now. Erica Smith says, "What would you suggest for someone who has knowledge in multiple avenues get zoned in on one? How do you know? How do I know which is better than the other, and who should I seek advice from?" I'll have either of you take the question. She broke it down into two questions there.
So it sounds like she may be saying like having interest in maybe different areas of radio.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I would advise that you just start somewhere. There are people, and Denise can attest to this because she was in my office last week. There are people that say, you know what, I'm doing this, but now I think I want to try that.
Right.
If you are at a smaller space, you can probably get your hands into just about anything. It's just about getting that one foot in the door. So I will encourage everybody who's interested in really pursuing a career to go, and that internship is essential. Show up, show up where the station is doing events and say, I love what you're doing, how can I be a part of that? Be persistent, like Denise said, and try things, because while you're trying things, then you'll figure out what you feel you're the best at and what you should allow yourself to grow in.
Yeah, absolutely. Denise, anything to add to that?
Yes, because like one thing that Angela mentioned, there are a lot of different things that you could do in radio. And sometimes you may come in and think, hey, oh, I want to do this. And it'll change. We have a couple of board operators who are remote engineers right now. They came in running the board, but as time went along, they're like, I really like this side of the job rather than being a board operator. So just come in with an open mind, because things could definitely change for you.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have another question here on the deck here. Let's go and bring that up. Any advice you want to any advice that you have to be, I'm going to read this right. Sorry. Any advice if you want to be on the air or learn the board?
Okay. So
this, by the way, this question is from Willie the Grand Man. He says hello, by the way.
Hello. How are you?
Hi.
So as far as wanting to be, whether it's on air or board operator, I basically, the training that we give, even at Crawford, it's very extensive. You definitely have to know something about radio. Okay. Wanting to start in this, whether it's going to be on air or if it's going to be a board operator. If you're on air, you want to do on air, start practicing air checks. Okay. Meaning start reading, I was about to say newspaper, now I'm telling my age, but start reading different things, whether it's social media, and it could be a story. It could be 2 pages long of a story, but you have to cut that story down and basically be a storyteller and make sure you get it done in a certain amount of time. So practice on things like that. As far as if you want to be on air, listen to the different formats, listen to the station that you want to be on to hear how we actually do radio. Every station is different. Okay. Board operator, that's always different depending on, basically what our procedures are. And procedures change at different companies. But once you get in, I had the mindset of, man, I can't wait to just put my foot in the door, because then I can show and learn as much as I can. So I hope I answered his question for him.
I hope he did too. I hope he got. I hope he heard that too. He's actually in the building here as
Oh,
well.
wow, cool.
The next question here, real quick, here says, "How does someone get an opportunity as an engineer?"
Okay, I guess I can take that one. So engineering obviously is a little bit unique, but I would suggest anybody interested in engineering, because those positions, they're not as like, we're not hiring for them as often. However, as Denise mentioned before, what you can do is come on and learn audio boards, and then have the opportunity to train as a remote engineer, which allows you to work directly with the engineers on offsite broadcasts. And that allows them to obviously get exposure to you and your skill set, and then you can be considered for other opportunities. So that would be my suggestion, at least as it relates to Crawford.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We do have another question here from Ashley Cundiff. She says, "Good evening, guys. Does it seem like it's easy to get boxed in one area in radio if you're really good at that specific scope?"
No, I wouldn't say. I'll be real quick. When I first started, I was in gospel. I did nothing but gospel. That's it. I then moved over to Soul 106.3, which is our R&B station, and I can flip back and forth. I can go the gospel, and I can do R&B. So it just really depends, on the person.
I was gonna, on the management side, I can say that sometimes if I could be completely honest, yes, some managers like to hold on to certain people in certain areas because it's their dependable person, or we know that this person does this very well. I think the key to that is just making sure that whoever's the supervisor understands that you have a wider skill set, and that you continue to share that interest, and you continue to share that you're interested in doing other things. Like, you have to kind of self-advocate for yourself in order to not be boxed like that. See, Denise is one of those managers, she gonna let you fly because she, but I'll be honest, there are some managers that will be like, this is my person. This person does sports, and this is where they're going to be. And you kind of have to allow them to see you in a different light in order to have other opportunities.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff right there. I mean, and you always got to have your head on a swivel, I'm sure, especially in this industry, especially at a station. There's so much happening on a daily basis. So you got to be very, very alert when it comes to that. I know our admin over here says there are not always jobs posted. Can someone reach out can someone reach out even if there isn't a job posted?
So the answer to that is yes. And I'm only speaking on behalf of our company. So we do have a dedicated email address. It is careers@crawfordbroadcasting.com. Anytime anybody's interested in something, if people send resumes with cover letters, because if you don't send a cover letter, I'm not even sure what you're interested in. Those managers get that information. Now, what they do with it, if they're in a position where they're not actually hiring, then you may get lost in the shuffle. So I say it's always important to stay tuned to, any of our radio stations or websites, just to see if we're posting something. But outside of that, you can always send in resume, cover letter, and interest. I even get them for internships. They all go to the specific managers or coordinators. Careers@crawfordbroadcasting.com.
So the @ symbol is
Yes. And you can be confident that all of that comes directly to me.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds great. Sounds great. The email is right there in the chat section. If you guys are interested, again, check the chat section. It's also displayed on the screen. If you are interested in that, and definitely reach out. Don't be afraid. It's not going to hurt to reach out and just to see what's going on. Again, we all know the phrase, a closed mouth don't get fed. So you want to make sure you do your due diligence. I want to shout out a couple people from the chat. I'm going to start this new thing, Linda, real quick before you, as you come on the screen, because you're about to come on. But shout out to Erica for bringing for chatting, Henri Daniel as well. We had Holly, of course, always on the chat. Maria Lano, that was here with us. Chit Chat with Nick Nack. Nikki was on. Chef D Beats was on. Also, Mitchell Ward was on from Colorado. We had Lachey Penn on. We also had our latest question from her name. I'm sorry, I just go on her name. Ashley Cundiff, thank you so much for participating with us as well. And of course, Willie the Grand Man was joining us as well. And I got a couple students in the lobby, which they're trying to hide. I see them watching us live in the room as well. So, Linda, you're doing a good thing.
That's so awesome. Tony, you've got this great surge of energy tonight, as always. You were just fabulous.
It's 2 degrees, too. And the lady I'm talking about, it's freezing.
It's cold here in Cleveland, too. It's so cold. Hey, thank you so much. There was so much great advice offered here from 2 different perspectives, actually 3 with Tony added in. You just can't go many places to get such honest conversation and really cover questions and thoughts that you think about, but where are you going to find that person who can really share information with you that's going to be useful and inspirational? Denise, I have to tell you, the recording's on. I would encourage anybody to listen back when you're having one of those moments that you're feeling like, wow, maybe I should give up. Because you did a beautiful job. And Angela, all of your background and the business perspective was such a great compliment. So I'm so glad that you came on with Denise. And, I think that for everybody that's listening, the takeaway is that there are so many different types of opportunity. Radio, as we know it, has evolved so much. But the more you can do, the more you're a Swiss Army knife, the more you can create content and learn how to cultivate that content and find the people that want to hear it and keep talking, because somebody is going to listen. And when they catch on, it's going to be a buzz everywhere. So thank you. I hope that those who joined us might listen back on the YouTube channel, Be On Air, because there was just great stuff here and more to learn. Our guest next week is going to be Crazy Bone of Bone Thugs and Harmony, and he's a good friend to our campus, and really excited to share his story and Spread the Love Foundation. And to you tonight, thank you so much to our guests. It was just fabulous. Got a good thing rolling for 2025. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Linda, before we sign off, Denise has a visitor. He wanted to say hello.
Oh, really?
I love it.
Hey, Miss Denise.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I ain't forget about you, okay?
I'm waiting on you. I know. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I love it.
That's the best. I think, where else can you get that? Oh, we're all smiling tonight. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to that good news so I can spotlight it. No pressure. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hold on.